Welcome to the Daily Plunge. We are looking at the Epistle to the Hebrews, chapter 2, verses 10 through 18. The author says that in order to bring sons and daughters of God into the glory of God, it was necessary, it was fitting that God, through whom everything exists, through whom we exist, that he should make the pioneer, the one who makes our salvation possible, who opens up the way of salvation for us, to make him perfect through suffering. Now, there's a lot there. And ultimately, he suffers what we deserve for sin so that he can open up our pathway to salvation. And so in verse 11, he goes on to say that both the one who makes the people holy and those who have been made holy, the sons and daughters, right? They are of the same family. In other words, they're all human beings. Christ became human so he could take on our lot. And it was Christ's humanity was necessary. And as it says in verse 12, he's not ashamed to call us his brothers and sisters. Verse 11. In verse 12, he quotes Psalm 22. I will declare God's name to my brothers and sisters. I will sing the praises of God in their midst. Now, Psalm 22, you know, because you know the words that Jesus utters from the cross, my God, why have you forsaken me? And the psalm is a song of lament by a servant of God who suffers, but in the end, he is redeemed, or perhaps we could say resurrected, so that he can proclaim God's victory, and that's what Jesus Christ does. And then the Hebrews author goes on to quote Isaiah chapter 8, verse 17, and then separately verse 18. Now, why? He says, again, I will put my trust in him. And it's the servant of the Lord, the Christ, saying, I will put my trust in the Lord, and here I am, and the children God has given to me. And so it's kind of like where Jesus says that, no, I will not lose any of those of the children God has put in my grasp. So we go on to verse 14, and he says that since the children have flesh and blood, Jesus Christ shared this too, so that as he enters in our place, he breaks the power of death and the devil. He breaks the enslavement of sin in our lives. And so, we are free from the bondage to sin and the fear of death. And this is something you can't do for yourself. You can't free yourself from sin because you are enslaved by it. You can't free yourself from the fear of death unless you have that promise of eternal life that comes only through Jesus Christ. And that's a challenge for us as believers, is do we live in fear of death? Because it's sin that causes us to fear, to be anxious about death. Now, he goes on to say that the Christ takes on humanity in order to help the sons and daughters of Abraham, of the covenant. And for this reason, he had to be fully human in every way so that he could be a merciful and faithful high priest, because he makes atonement for us by giving himself, by making himself the atonement. And so he goes on in verses 17 to 18 to say, he was human in every way, even being tempted, but not falling to temptation, so that he could lead our way out of it. Well, thanks, friends. Have a blessed day.